Men are walking away from women in America in drones. At least that's what one of my most favorite influencers in the space, Dan, talks to his audience on his channel, Men Need to Be Heard, all the time. But I don't know if I agree with that. But instead of debating this with myself in front of you guys and the camera, I thought I would invite Dan on my channel right here and debate that with him. So that's what we did.
All right, Dan, I've been watching your channel for a while now, and one thing that I hear all the time from you is men are walking away. Men are walking away from the modern entitled women. It's just not worth it to them. And, you know, as much as I want this as the final goal for our community and for men, but I don't see it. I have to say that when not on social media, not talking to my friends in America and Europe, and not even here in Thailand, where guys come in here and they don't have to simp, but they still simp. So where are you hearing and seeing this that I am not, that men are walking away?
Two areas primarily. One, they've done the research on it, right? They are seeing it. Marriages are down. So if you look at the data itself, marriages, and I'm talking primarily US, okay? Marriages are down. And relationships in general are down. So that's one area. But where I'm really seeing it is my followers. So, you know, I put a video up every day, and pretty much there isn't a day that goes by that I don't get hundreds of men in some way saying they've walked away, right? And it's actually exploding. Now let's set the parameters here. You know, it's not every man, but it's enough of a percentage that it's starting to get noticed, not just by men, politicians. And if you actually, I'm talking U.S. primarily. If you look at the politicians in the U.S., all of a sudden in the last few months to a year, there's been a shift. Now they're pushing men. Well, we want to get married, right? We want to have relationships and all that. That's because they've seen the data. They've seen that men are done and walking away. Marriages, like I said, have plummeted, relatively speaking, in the U.S., but also, by the way, worldwide. UK is seeing it. Australia is seeing it. All the, what I call Western countries are seeing it. So it's there. I think the misnomer might be that that you think it might be 80 or 90% of men that have walked away. It's not. It's probably, and this is my own swag, silly wild ass guess. I'd say it's probably somewhere between 30 and 40%.
Wow.
That's a high enough number that it's causing panic. And that number is growing exponentially every year.
So, and I guess this is where I believe me, I hate being wrong. I would love to be wrong here. The reason I'm kind of questioning this is because, you know, and I've told this to my audience very recently, all you have to do is to create a fake dating profile with an average looking AI generated girl with something really BS in the profile, and just see the number of pathetic men simping, giving compliments, sending money. I mean, I get screenshots from some of the girls that I know, even here in Southeast Asia, and men just first message how much money they're just gonna give them. So, I mean, that's where I'm coming from. And I also don't see, in my personal experience, because I have started trying to talk to Western women here in Thailand, and I'm seeing exactly the same attitude. So, you know, have we not reached enough men who have walked away? What is that magic number to change their behavior?
The magic number is probably when it gets over 50%, right? So here's the thing, Alex, that we have to keep in mind. What kind of men are you seeing, right? So you talked about yourself. You're seeing the simping men, the ones that will throw themselves at women, and it's sad. It's pathetic, right? And we've talked about it before. What you're not seeing is the guys who've actually walked away, because they're not broadcasting it, right? They're not talking about it. They're just doing it. So now here's the other thing to your point, right? Women are starting to see it. because they're not getting asked out. They're going on these dating apps, and the only responses they're getting from two types of men. They're getting it from the Chads, Tyrones, whatever term you want to use for them, right? And they're getting it from the simps. The ones they're not hearing from are the men they actually want for relationships. They'll happily jump in bed with as many Chads as they can, right? But eventually they get tired of it. They want to settle down. Usually about the time they start hitting the wall around 30, right? Now they want to have kids, they want to have a family and all that. Well, the guys that they would want for that aren't on the dating apps. They're not on social media talking about it. Those are the guys that I hear from, right? I call them the average everyday guy. You, me, you know. The ones that are the Chads, they're always going to be Chads. And by the way, I've talked about it before. I'm a former Chad 40 years ago. I'm a little older now, right? I played that game. I know how to play it. I grew out of it. A lot of guys don't. The other side of it is the guys that just throw themselves at women thinking that's what's going to work. And most of those guys, by the way, if you actually, because I'm doing research on this topic, most of those guys, by the way, were raised by single mothers. They don't know any better. They never had a male influence. So I don't really fault them per se, because they were never taught how to be men. But that's what's happening. So you're seeing the ones on dating apps that are there. What you're not seeing is the ones that aren't there.
But it's a premise that you're working with that I'm not really sure about, because you're assuming that women know what good men are. And, you know, and I agree with you, a lot of these women, just like men, are being raised without fathers, with a good example of what a good, strong man is, and they're being raised by mothers who you essentially simp for just because you're the child and that's the only parent you have. They just simp from day one, essentially. How do these women know that the marriage material men are now walking away if they never knew who these men were or were able to identify them?
I think they do know deep down. I think it biologically, we know, right? They know. Women are very intuitive in some ways. In some ways they're not, let's be honest, okay? But when it comes down to partnerships, coming together, marriage, whatever phrase you want to put it, they inherently know the quote unquote right guy, good guy, whatever you want to call it. Okay. The problem is right now, and I've talked with women about this, they're like, there are none out there. You hear women say that all the time. Where'd they all go? I can't find a good guy. It's because, to your point, they've been taught that the Chads and simps were the good guys by their mothers, right? If you can get a guy that's going to give you every penny he's got and all that stuff, they get that guy. They actually go out on dates with him, and then they quickly realize there's no sustenance behind it, no substance, right? Is they see these guys that just fawn over them, and it actually biologically it comes into play, but it repulses them. Then the other side of it is the Chads who pump and dump them and toss them aside, right? They don't want that either. So some of it is inherent, but some of it is learned behaviors. They learn this through their 20s. The problem they have is they hit 30, the wall is won every single time. It's undefeated. And then the guys are going through a similar metamorphosis, right? So as I said, when I was from about 18 to 23, I was a Chad, Tyrone, whatever term. We called them players back then, players, right? I was that. And I'm not trying to brag. I actually, not that I'm ashamed of it, but it's not something I'm proud of, right? I met a lot of women, let's say that. But I grew out of it. I realized on my end, I'm not getting what I want out of this, right? There's no meat there, right? It's nothing for me to grasp onto long term. I believe women go through the same thing. The problem they have is they become so toxic in their 20s because they can have any guy they want when they're young and beautiful. But as time goes on, they start learning. And you see it on social media, by the way, right? So look at the videos. I'm actually putting one together on this. Look at the videos of the 20-year-old women. What are they all saying? I'm hot, I'm beautiful, I can have any guy I want, essentially, right? And they treat men like garbage. Then they get to 30, and you start seeing the videos then. Where are all the good guys? I can't find anyone. Dating is so hard. Then you go to the 40s. That's when the bitterness starts creeping in. And by 50, they're like, I'm going to be alone forever. Now, again, I'm generalizing, Alex. You got to keep that in mind. There are exceptions everywhere. But I do believe that women learn over time what a good guy is. And I also believe it's somewhat inherent biologically.
Well, so I want to talk about it in another video, whether or not they learn really, because I don't think they do. But I just want to go back to, the whole walking away. The reason I don't think there are enough men walking away, because my estimation would be 5% actually. It's very far from yours and much more probably pessimistic. But it's because most men just don't realize what's even happening. Because this was not an announced. We did not all just get a newsletter. A lot of us who are now in our 30s, 40s, 50s, we kind of had to first realize that these women are not the same as we remember them only a few years ago, and then realize what's actually happening. It took me a while. It took me like 2 or 3 years before I realized, it's not me. It's not specifically the city that I'm in. It's really what's happening. But, these men, they have nowhere to really realize and tell them, and had the red pill, what's happening. And this is why I'm having a hard time thinking that just most of these men, even just talking to them, have no clue what's going on. How can they be already walking away,
Again, a lot of them, to your point, a lot of them don't realize they've walked away, right? The way you're seeing it, and I've talked about this with other people before, the game changer for men. It wasn't like we put out a message and all the guys signed up, right? That's not what happened. Men don't do that. Women do. They'll mass up, join together, and go on their crusade. Men are more alone. The game changer was COVID. That's when I saw it start happening because, again, if you think about it biologically, it is inherent. It is our drive to pair bond, right? Primarily men and women. Of course, there's gay and lesbian and all that. We're not talking about that. But men and women are driven to be together. We survive because we're together. The species will disappear without it. What happened was, I think women got farther along with, I can be on my own. You hear it all the time. I'm strong and independent. I don't need no man. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Men don't go around running, I'm strong and independent. What they do, and this is where COVID came in, is they start thinking about things. When COVID hit and we were all locked in our homes for months, men figured out, you know what? I'm pretty damn happy. I can sit home, watch whatever movie I want, play video games. When things eventually loosened up, I can go fishing, do whatever. There was no dating going on. And men figured out, you know what? I'm a lot happier. I got more money in the bank. That's what started it. And it's becoming a movement along those lines. So I get what you're saying. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just think you're not seeing it to the level I am, right? There are a lot of guys that are just lost still. And those are the guys I'm trying to reach. That's why my whole channel exists.
Same.
Yeah, it's trying to reach. For me, my focus is the 20-year-olds primarily. And I'm hearing from them. There isn't a day that goes by I don't hear from at least 2 or 3 saying, oh my God, thank you, blah, 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 right? I'm now realizing that. They are, not that I'm actually trying to red pill them, but they are becoming red pilled. And I don't even like that term because they throw these terms out there to put them down, right? When in reality, instead of trying to put down what's happening, we should be acknowledging it. And politicians are, by the way. I talk to politicians all the time because I lobby on men's issues, and they are panicking because if the marriage rate crumbles, birth rate has declined in every country, Western country. Japan is in deep shit right now. Korea is right there with them. There's your other sign, right? That is where Japan is going to be in 20 years. God help them. I don't know what they're going to do because their population has aged so bad. There's no one to take care of them. Korea is right there. The US is not all that far behind. I don't know about Thailand. I can't speak to that. Australia, same thing. Those are all the signs. But again, I think, and I'm not trying to disagree with you, but I think you're looking for that 70, 80, 90% number. It's probably, I'm going to say 30, 35, somewhere 40 maybe right now. When it climbs over 50, society's done.
So what do you think is going to happen when we cross that magic number?
Society's done, to be honest with you, right? And the proof is in the pudding with Japan and Korea, as I mentioned. Think about it. No birth rates decline. So in the U.S., there's roughly 350 million people. That population number starts dropping. One of the reasons they want to import so many, I'll use the term refugees, is because the population is dropping. So they're trying to offset that somehow. Because as that happens, right, it affects the country economically. It cannot sustain itself. There's no one younger to produce what's needed for society to survive. And when you add on top of it, by the way, that men are withdrawing from society completely, there are 5 to 7 million men that are between the ages of 18 and 35 that have completely withdrawn from the workforce in the U.S. That is a mind-blowing number.
That one is.
Wow. And when you think about it, Alex, from the perspective of who builds the roads, who creates the electricity and delivers it, who creates food and delivers it, who creates water, sewer, you name it, it ain't women, it's men. And even with the shortages out there of manpower, women are not stepping up, nor will they. They don't want to break a nail.
And let me. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to run by you in this one. The reason I started this channel and the reason I want this channel to be popular, not for me. I have actually a goal, and I don't think I've ever told you about this. So let's see if you actually like this. If I ever get popular and have enough audience with my partners like you and everything, I would like to announce what I would call a menopause. Menopause. It will be one day where American men would just stay home, just not show up to work for 24 hours, right? Just to show what's going to happen to, the world, but essentially the rest of the people, the women, when men are not around, right? And that is one of my biggest goals, is to announce that. And I would prefer that somebody would make a movie out of it before we actually go through with it, and see what happens. So
I made a video on it, by the way.
So what are your thoughts on that in conclusion of our conversation here?
It's something I've been dreaming about for 30 years, my friend. And it would not take every man. 5% is all it takes. If 5%,
really?
That's all you need. If 5% of men did a call-in sick day, let's call it, right? They would be begging us back to come back, not in a day, in hours, 2 to 3 at most, because there would not be enough men to handle everything, right? Electricity would start going. Power would shut down. Fire and police, if 5% of them walked away, there's not enough coverage, right? And so on and so on. You can extrapolate that out. It would not take every man. If every man did it, society would collapse, because there's no way, even if for a short one day, it would not recover from it. Think about it, right? So we announced.
I thought about it.
Yeah, by the way, I'm a huge advocate for it myself, because I know what would happen, right? And I'd be locked in my house with multiple weapons ready to go, because all holy hell would break loose. Imagine if the police went on strike for a day. What's going to happen? Even if the male criminals step away, they take the day off. There's enough female criminals out there. Nobody wants to acknowledge that, right? That's what would happen. And it needs to happen, in my opinion, because that is the ultimate way we get our message across. Society would fail instantly. And when I say instantly, I'm talking 2, 3, 4 hours at most. I've done a video on that, how fast it would be. Because, again, for example, nuclear power plants, which generate a ton of electricity in a lot of Western countries, they have to be monitored 24/7. And who monitors them? Men. Are there some women engineers? Sure. A fraction of the number that are for men. So they all go offline instantly, like in minutes. Sewer, what, you keep going from there, right? It all disappears instantly. And they'd be begging us to come back. And again, it goes back to what I'm saying. They can't even cover now with those 5 to 7 million men that have walked away from work. Forget relationships.
You know, I hate to be wrong, but this is one of the few times when I really wish I am. But only the time will tell. And of course, if you want to be one of those men who are not just walking away from American women, but they are walking towards women who are traditional and family-oriented in other countries, well, then go to themillionmanproject.com, where I have outlined how you can actually accomplish that step by step. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Dan's channel, Men Need to Be Heard. I put that link in the description of this video.